Um, Good day and welcome to Risha Training Academy. This is one of the usual episodes that we do all the time. Today we speak policy or program evaluation. As usual, you may go to rishaacademy.coza to get more information on the programs that we offer. We are a training and consulting business. Today I said let's engage on policy evaluation or program evaluation. It's one of the most important really instrument to determine whether you are making progress or not. And I think we need to start from the beginning. What is this policy evaluation that we're talking about, or program evaluation? Evaluation is a methodological way to determine whether you are achieving the goals that you have set for yourselves. It differs with monitoring, because monitoring, you are continuously tracking the progress in terms of the activities that must reach you, or that must lead you to the goal that you have set for yourselves. Of course, there are different types of evaluation. I don't need to engage on those different types of evaluation. Why do we do evaluation? I think I've touched base on that, but it gives everyone an opportunity to begin to understand what the policy or the program have done throughout the life of that policy. And perhaps the other question is, when do we conduct evaluation? I always say evaluation should be conducted throughout the policy life cycle. Of course, decades ago, the scholars at the time took evaluation as something that must happen at the end of the program or the policy. And that has given so much problems, because many times when you do evaluation, you are faced with challenges, and I will come into those challenges just now. The people who are evaluating the policy or the program must develop, evaluation questions, number of instruments, so that they can gather the information they want to make the evaluation results or evaluation findings. But there are opportunities that are available for organizations when they do evaluation, the benefits. But what we also know is that I seem to be interrupted now. Let me continue. As I was saying, the evaluation gives benefits, a lot of benefits in the organization, because the organization would, for instance, know that this policy, this is what is done, this is what is achieved, and these are the weaknesses. But the policies, when they came, they don't just come. Somebody sponsored these policies. An organization sponsored these policies. 29th of May, we are going to elections. And the results will be announced by the Independent Electoral Commission. in terms of which party had won the election. These parties currently, they are campaigning, they are promising electorate lots of things. And some of these issues may require a policy change to be effected. If one party, for instance, promises electorate 5,000 rands minimum wage, for instance, that means there must be a policy change, because we know a minimum wage to be at around 3.5 a month. So that requires policy change. So the minister of that particular party in the department where this must be done, for instance, the Department of Labor, must then said, this is what my party has committed to people of this country when they campaigned, and we need to start with the changing of minimum wage from 3.5 to 5,000 rands a month, which means you need a policy change. The policy designers or policy makers will start the process, and it goes to the lawmakers in parliament, and that process is finalized, signed by the president. Now, that is the stage when our policies come. Of course, there could be other ways that policies can come. Now, let's look at the policy that perhaps one is looking at, whether this policy has given the results that we have desired or not. I was talking about the reason why we need to do evaluation throughout the whole cycle instead of doing it at the end. Those who are doing evaluation, somebody has sponsored this policy, somebody has designed this policy, but the one who is doing evaluation probably is a different person or people or organization, for that matter, if you are source, which will come to that maybe at the end. Now, those who designed or sponsored the policy had clear goals in terms of what must be achieved. But it happens that during the policy design stage, those goals were not reflected as how those who wanted to do this policy had thought. And now as evaluator, you begin to have a problem that actually what this policy is all about, it is not what initially the idea was about. That means when you begin to implement that policy, you start to experience issues now, because this was the sponsors of the policy, this is what they thought in mind. But what was designed is just similar, not exactly what they thought in mind. And now you are in the process of evaluation, you identifying stakeholders, and one of the stakeholders you are identified, perhaps the people who sponsored this policy. And as you engage, then you begin to realize that what they are talking, it is not what is in the policy in terms of the goals. So that is why I say it's important to do evaluation throughout, because even during the design of the policy, you begin to ask whether is this what is supposed to be done? Did we craft these goals in the manner that will talk to the original sponsors, those who sponsored the policy? Of course, when we do evaluation, we don't just come and say we do evaluation. There must be evaluation plan, which I think it is at the center of the evaluation. What goes into the evaluation plan There's a number of issues that must go into the evaluation plan, and let me start here. We need to ask ourselves, what is the purpose of this evaluation? What do we want to achieve by conducting this evaluation? That's the first question that we need to ask. And when you know what you want to achieve with the evaluation, you start to look at what is the team, the caliber of the team I must put to conduct this evaluation. Because with that, once you know what is the objectives of the evaluation, who's going to lead the evaluation, you start to look the type of data that you want. Because, for instance, you are evaluating a housing policy, and you want to check what has been the impact of this policy. So the data that you need to get, it must talk to that, because it doesn't help to just get data that really won't talk to, won't give you what you want to get in terms of responding to that question. The people that must collect this data, how often this data must be collected, people must analyze this data, and this data must be interpreted. But there's a serious question that we need to respond, is the issue of the indicators. Because when you have these goals, for you to know whether you have achieved these goals, one way to get to that, it is through the indicators. What are the issues that indicate that I've achieved these goals? Maybe one could be how many houses were constructed or were built in the last 5 years in Limpopo. I mean, the public houses, your RDP houses, for instance, in Limpopo. Maybe also with other provinces, because you want to check that. But also, you may want to be looking at the state of those houses. Are they in good condition? You may want to know whether those houses are connected to services like water, electricity, sanitation. You may want to know what other amenities are available in the vicinity of those houses. Do they have schools? Do they have shops? Do they have maybe public transport, for instance? So, because if you are just measuring how many houses, you may not get really what you want. Because what if you get that 500,000 houses have been built, but majority of those houses have cracks, they have no water, they have no electricity. So it is not the results that even the sponsors of a particular policy would have wanted. So you look at the kind of those indicators. And once you have those indicators, now you start to bring questions to respond to each indicator. And there will be many, many, many questions that you can you can put there, so that your questions are able to help you to respond to the question, what is the purpose of this evaluation? I think that is the very much important issue that if you are doing evaluation, you must look at. Now you have the evaluation questions. You know who must collect data. You know and how often they must collect this data. And the issue of analyzing the data, but it doesn't end from analyzing. We must interpret. What does the data say to us? If the policy objectives was to build 5,000 houses in Limpopo province in the last 5 years, and with this X number of houses that we built, what does it mean? Do you think that are we in track or not? And the roles of stakeholders is very much important in policy development. Working at home and with the daughter is not so easy. But let's continue. With the stakeholders play a role because the data that you're going to collect, you're collecting from the stakeholders. Of course, one, you could be data that's available on the internet, reports that may have been produced by the stakeholders, but you may sometimes need to engage people. For instance, the beneficiary, the people that are staying in these houses, you may need to engage and test them whether are they satisfied. That is the issue of a beneficiary assessment. Are they satisfied with the service that they've received? The house is there, maybe it's leaking. From the day one the house was handed over, it has been leaking. And you find that actually it's not only the house of this household, but majority of houses have the same problem. So that means that now you are having a concrete data that you can rely upon. And of course, you will have your questionnaire. You can use a questionnaire to ask these beneficiaries. Now you have dealt with all these issues. You have the data. You've analyzed the data. It has told you what it has told you. Now it's time for findings. You can't come with your own findings. The data must tell you that these are the issues. Many times we know when you do evaluation internally, the risk is that the findings can be influenced. There could be biasness. I always say one of the challenges when we do SWOT analysis is that many times managers don't want to acknowledge their internal weaknesses. And as such, because of that information that is not coming forward, your strategy, it will be finalized, but it will be lacking crucial information that if that crucial information was there, things would have been better. Excuse me. So that is why you need to rely on data for your findings so that you are not influenced by anybody. And when the findings are done, this policy when was implemented, you had a number of role players, and this is the time now to say to the role players, to the stakeholders that you have been working with since the inception of this evaluation, these are our findings, and these findings must come with recommendations as well. Maybe when you were doing your own evaluation, you realized that the contractors that were hired to build these houses, some of them they didn't even finish. Why did they left? One of the reasons being that they were paid maybe their contract fees, all of it, before they could complete. A few days ago, I was talking about the project cost management and I've zoomed into end value management. This contractor has been paid 100% of his fees. And in terms of what was planned, he's sitting at 70%. Now because he no longer has money and the cost required to finish the 30% maybe is so much X amount of money that he doesn't have. What he does, he runs away. That is what evaluation can reveal. But now, with that, it means that we start to make recommendations, tight project management practice in the organization, to make sure that you have proper tools and measures to ensure that when you pay contractors, you pay as per the value of work that has been done so that you avoid things like this. Maybe most of the houses that we built were built on a wetland. So which means one recommendation might be even to move those people to a safer area. Maybe when you build those houses, other stakeholders didn't come on board. Maybe it's a municipality, to make sure that there's water, there's electricity there. So the recovery could also be looking at that so that to get the impact, to get the satisfaction by the beneficiaries to ensure that the goals of the policy are achieved. We need to make sure that we do this. These are the recommendations. But now you have the findings of the evaluation. Who must use these findings? Your stakeholders must be able to use your findings. Your own organization must use findings. The monitoring evaluation department must use findings. Finance must use this finding. Policy division must use these findings. Because this is the time to reflect and learn what have we done better, what we could have done better, and where we failed. Did we fail because there were no sufficient resources to implement the policy? Did we succeed because we had a proper implementation or monitoring? Did we fail because the community that we identified as beneficiaries rejected our interventions? And when that happens, you start to realize that actually the problem here, it is because the policy was not designed properly. That's why initially I was talking about policy evaluation happening throughout the policy. Because if you don't do that, you have a problem during the period of evaluation. That maybe this policy, its design was not done correct. That means the people at monitoring and evaluation in your unit, in the organization, should be able to give guidance, or the people who deal with policy might work with people that can guide them to ensure that evaluation it is done throughout the stages of policy. Now we have that problem that actually these people, we built houses and they were not looking for houses. These people, what they're looking for is water. So you give them what? So that means the policy, it didn't talk to the beneficiaries. And unfortunately, you're only finding it as a process of evaluation. These are issues that during the design should be done. So that's why I said, during evaluation, if evaluation was not done throughout, you have the problem if you want to do it at the end. I was talking about who must then use the findings of this evaluation. It's people that are responsible for implementing. Other interested parties must use the findings internal structures. People who are finance, making sure that there is money. People who are hiring these contractors, you supply chain people, people who are project managing implementation of these policies should use the results. The political principals who are involved should use the results. Even Parliament can use those results, because this must be used as learnings, so that when you go and do maybe similar policy, these learnings will then help you even when you design this new policy. You know, one macroeconomic policy that we had in this country, the ASGISA, it was rejected by organizations like COSATU, Southern Communist Party, saying that it is not bringing employment. While the economy is growing, it's not bringing the employment. And this policy was designed, or was rather approved during the term of President Mbeki. Of course, different people, and I'm sure in the ANC, they will have discussed this policy to say, if this is a macroeconomic policy, what then are the benefits to the country? And it was shelved in the manner that they've shelved because of the concerns from the stakeholders. So, in other words, you evaluate your policy. When you evaluate the policy, one of the recommendation could be, let's extend this policy. Maybe it has not really, it could, maybe with these challenges, now those challenges have been resolved. Now if we start to implement it, we could find some impact. Maybe we need a new direction, not total departure from the goals, but perhaps how would we go about implementing this policy? Things have to change. Then you start to amend that policy to accommodate other issues that perhaps were not initially accommodated. Or you could terminate the policy. As you know, as Kisa, we no longer talk about it today. So, but of course, the principals wouldn't really want to terminate policies, because when you terminate policy, perhaps on the ground that it didn't perform well, or maybe it was not the policy we needed, it might show some form of weaknesses. That why did we do it if this is the results? So it's important to link the design of the policy, the implementation, and the evaluation, because evaluation will touch base on these issues from the policy planning, from the policy implementation. So it is very much important that you make sure that your findings and recommendations are done based on the data that is in front of you. It cannot be from something else. There cannot be any other thing that must make you to look for some data that is not there. But let's look at, as the last issue, who must do evaluation? It's the biggest question, really, to be honest with you. And both people that I'm going to mention, they're all okay. It depends on how you're looking at. And I'll be honest with you, here at Risha Training Academy, we also consult on this policy evaluation. So if you want a consultant to help you, we are able to help you. There are two people that can do this. One is your internal people. Maybe unity monitoring and evaluation, they can go and do it. The other people that can do it are your external people, maybe your consultants, people like us. We can come and do evaluation. But all these people have their own advantages and disadvantages to you as an organization. For instance, if you talk about internal people, you may not have to spend so much money. Maybe the money that you have to spend is for people traveling to collect data, the stationery that is required, maybe you need some softwares. That could be that. But there's a question of whether these results can be relied upon because they were done by internal people. The question is, could these people be influenced to make certain findings or recommendations? So now that is the question of legitimacy now. Can this report be accepted? If there's a perception that these findings maybe are biased, these findings maybe were influenced somehow. But I can tell you without any worry that the policy can be done by your internal and external stakeholders. External stakeholders, external parties like your consultant. The problem here is that they may take time, to understand the policy, take time to understand the beneficiaries, to understand also your internal process and organization. But otherwise, they could be preferred to do it. But where the systems and everything and the perception of biasness can be removed, they tell people are the right people to do it. And we need to create capacity in organizations to do it. You can have internal person doing the evaluation, and then you go and get expert review, somebody from outside to review what this internal person would have done. That will also be cost effective in the organization. Colleagues, I think I will end there. I see my light is being compromised. I will end there, and please will continue to do this. For more information, you can email us at info@rishaacademy.coza. Visit rishaacademy.co.za, and you can phone 072 314 6371. Thank you, and I sign out. God bless.